What's up, guys? Old Sunny here. Welcome back to another video, and I hope you guys are all doing well. In today's video, we are taking a look at a very popular engine. We're taking a look at the Bachmann 284 nickel plate road 765 Mars Light equipped Berkshire. Now, I'm not sure if Bachmann did 765 with a Mars Light, but I bought this locomotive used on eBay for $115, and it was number 763, and I redecaled to 765. So I did a couple modifications to it, and I'm still not finished with it because I still got to put sound in it, and I still got to wire up the Mars Light. The Mars Light has a light in it, it just does not flash or work right now. However, we're going to take a look at it, and I will point out what modifications I've done other than redecaling it from 763 to 765. That's probably going to be the most obvious thing, and another obvious thing is going to be when we put the locomotive on the track. The tender I haven't done anything to because the tender is already pretty detailed, and it's actually fairly accurate for what it is. Just needs more weight. That's about it. Other than that, we're going to take a look at this engine and dive into the details, and I'll give you a brief history on this 765. The nickel plate road Berkshires, also known as the S2 class locomotives on the nickel plate system, were a series of 284 type Berkshire locomotives built for fast freight and even on some occasions passenger trains. These locomotives ran on the nickel plate system from the 1940s to the end of the 1950s, and were retired in 1957 and 1959. Nickel plate road 765, which we are looking at here, has been preserved and is actually on display and is actually operating by the Fort Wayne Historical Railway Society. Another Berkshire also operated, number 759, which also operated on the Golden Spike excursion in the 70s, and for the Golden Spike train that ran for the 100th anniversary of the driving of the Golden Spike, which was also painted up in a blue and yellow Golden Spikes paint scheme to hit that train. 759 was unfortunately retired again due to the previous owners of the locomotive, who ended up forgetting to drain the boiler, and the locomotive would not run again. After doing a hydro test and one of the flues failed, the locomotive was deemed unrepairable and is now retired at Steamtown in Scranton, Pennsylvania, which is currently on display as of today. And like I said, for 765, it's holding strong and running again on excursions. I don't know if it's doing excursions as of right now because of COVID, but it is in currently operational condition. So that was a brief history on the nickel plate road Berkshires, and now we're going to get into the model. Now, the Bachmann model, as for all Bachmann models, it is not accurate. It is not 100% accurate, and I will point out some of the things that I know that's not accurate and stuff that I don't know if it's right or not. Now, I'm not the biggest expert on the 765 because I'm a Western guy. I normally deal with Union Pacific and Southern Pacific, but I do know a little bit of my Eastern locomotives, like the Norfolk and Western and the Pennsy, but that's about it. Primarily, I do, like I said, Union Pacific, SP, and ATSF, but I do know a little bit of my favorite Eastern locomotives. So, again, I will point out what I know is accurate and what I know is not accurate, and what I know is what's supposed to be here and what's not supposed to be here. But anyway, it's fairly accurate for what it is, but there's some stuff missing, like most Bachmann engines. But it's decent, but it's not perfect. So, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're taking a nice, good look at the front of the boiler and the pilot. So I'm going to push the locomotive out a little bit. Now, I'm going to point out some of the modifications I've made on this locomotive. Number 1 is the addition of a Katy number 5 on the front. Number 2 is the addition of a working Mars light, independent from the headlight. Number 3 is the fact that I redecaled the entire boiler face as 765. Number 4 is the fact that the class lights actually are operational now. And number 3 is the fact that number 5 is the fact that I actually highlighted the pilot, because this just comes in black. So I highlighted the steps from black to white. So that's about it that I've done on the front of the locomotive in terms of detailing and appearance. But we're going to take a look at the locomotive and take some of those details. So of course you got your nice signature nickel plate road pilot with its steps. the bars and everything. KD number 5, I already said that, but there would be an easy made Mark II coupler on the front of this. Just rip it off, just put a KD on it. Coupler cut lever. This does actually move. The MTH one I don't believe moves, and I don't think the Proto 2000s ones move. Yeah, a nice pilot shield, pilot bar right here under the headlight, smoke box door, headlight with a number plate, number boards on both sides of the headlight, operational Mars light. This, in the Bachmann models, this does actually have a bulb in it. However, it just works with the headlight. So they are independent technically. However, they do work together when stock. So you would have to do some custom work for that. You got a swinging bell. This bell actually does swing. Class lights, which are die-cast metal. Flying number boards. I believe that's the Worthington feed water heater right behind the bell. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I think that is. And yeah, so that's that. Let's move to the front cylinder. Let's move to the engineer side of the front of the boiler. Okay, so we're looking at the engineer side of the front of the boiler, and I'm going to point out one thing that is in this general location that I can tell you that's not here, and that's on top of this and on top of the smoke box. And I'm going to point out another thing that's for all nickel plate Berkshires except for 765, and I believe 759 at one point in time. 765 currently has a graphite smoke box, so when it would be running at 765, it would have a graphite smoke box. All the nickel plate Berkshires had a black smoke box, not a graphite one. So that's accurate for this engine, but not for all of the Berkshires. So let that be noted. Another thing that's not accurate, and that's because it's also not here, is the blower stack. There is a secondary smokestack that the nickel plate Berkshires had right in this general location. It's either somewhere near the feed water heater or near the actual smokestack, and that is for the blower, and it's not here. So that's something you have to add, and that's what I can tell you about the smoke box, or at least that I remember and what I know of at least. Next up is, of course, you get your gorgeous builder's plate, which actually is there on the GS4s that Bachmann make. Still a nice model, but still, how are you gonna not have the builder's plate? Come on, man. You got your cylinders, Baker valve gear, your pony truck right here. Again, 284 wheel arrangement. You get some nice Baker valve gear detailing, white walled drive wheels, white walled wheels in general, reverse gear, air tank right here, pinstriping along the running boards. You get separately applied. I believe that's piping right here. You get separately applied piping. Actually, there's a separately applied reversing throttle linkage right here. Separately applied sanding lines, metal handrails, sand dome. Steam dome is right here. Let's move to the firebox. Now, another thing that's not here, there's something, I don't know what it is. I believe it might be something for the boiler blowdown, but it's also not here. It's supposed to be something that comes down right here. That's not here. And I'm assuming because let the Locomotive navigate 18-inch radius curves, that's actually this minimum operational radius stock. That's probably going to go up for me with the modification I do, but I'm pretty sure it's not there because they don't want the trailing truck to be smacking into it. Now, they could have just attached something to the trailing truck, which is probably the smart thing to do. But point is, it's not there. But that's just something to note. Yeah, some separately applied and cast in detailing on the firebox. Most of it is cast in. Continuation of the pinstriping. You got 765 here. That is another thing that I've done. You got your Berkshire signature right here. Whatever that says. I can't read it. I don't think the camera will be able to pick that up. No! Okay, so we're back. My camera just died, so you know how that goes. But again, I don't think the camera will be able to pick that up either. Let's see. No. I'll leave it here for a split second. I don't know I can't really read exactly what that says, but it is there. So if you do know what that is for you Berkshire fans, then well, there you go. So that's that. Let's move on to the inside of the cab and to the other side of the locomotive. Okay, So we are taking a look at the inside of the cab and shine a light. Now, of course, being a Bachmann cab, they're not very well detailed, and most cabs and most locomotives aren't the greatest. Um, it's something that's very overlooked, unless if you're buying like a Broadway or an MTH locomotive, um, or even in some cases Athearn, which I'm not the biggest fan of their steam engines, but they do. It's decent enough for what it is. You can see the holes I tried to drill to do a firebox light. Unfortunately, I was not able to fit the light in there without so I couldn't get the cab back on. So I had to let that go. You might notice that there's this tread plate that I'm flipping up and down. This does not come with your locomotive. That is something I had to do on my own. And yeah, you can get these on Bachmann's website, and you can also find them as a brass detail part. But that's what I did. I really like the fact that I have a tread plate because it looks so much better, and it does not look hideous without it. Even though the tender gap isn't really that bad, but still, it just looks so much better. So that's that. So now I'm going to turn this off and take a look at the fireman's side. The fireman's side, again, there's something that's supposed to come down to the firebox, like over here somewhere. It's not there. Again, casting detailing, pinstriping that goes down. Now mine, of course, because mine was used, the pinstriping started to fade off. But on your model, it should be here if you bought it brand new. Again, continuation of the Baker valve gear and the reversing gear right here. The piston rods going to the cylinders on the crosshead, the cylinders, and of course your builder's plate on the other side of the locomotive. You get your whistle up here. Let me pick the camera up. You get your whistle here, you get your stack here. And the stack does not go inside of the locomotive. Sand hatches on top of the sand dome. Safety valves right here. You get, I think, 2 dynamos, some more casting detailing on top, and some stuff on top of the firebox, and then cab roof hatch, which does stay open. It's casting, you can't close it. And of course, you've got your 2 pin drawbar, 22-inch radius, 18-inch radius. So those are your drawbar pins. You can actually run 18-inch radius on this one if you really want to, but you got to be very careful. But that's about it. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the tender. This is going to be very quick because there's not really that much to the tender, but let's go ahead and do so. Okay, so this is a nickel plate 765's tender. So we're going to take a nice good look at this real quick. You get your plugs, you get your motor and your light cable plug, which is the 4-pin plug, your track power wire, which is the 2-pin plug. You get Buckeye trucks right here. You get your crisp nickel plate road lettering. You get your nickel plate road signature, a hint of what the real nickel plate road name stands for, which is New York, Chicago, and St. Louis. Again, crisp nickel plate road lettering. You get your other Buckeye truck, which is actually a little goof that Bachmann did. It's actually supposed to be facing. This truck is actually supposed to be facing the other way, but that's not that big a deal. You could do that yourself if you really wanted to, but that's something to note. Underneath the tender, you get some brake rigging detail. Your speaker holes right there, so that we could put your own 28mm speaker. I'm going to be putting TCS WOW in this engine whenever I get the chance to do so, because they have nickel plate road sound file on there. You get your separately applied hand railing on top of the tender, water hatches, a cast on ladder, I believe. I think that's what this is. I think this is cast on. It looks separately applied, but it's not. I don't think. Not that I know of. Nickel plate road 765 on the back of the tender. Your gallons of capacity. Operational reverse light. Operational coupler cut lever. My KD number 5. That's my only modification I've done to the tender other than changing the headlight color. Other side of the tender, pretty much the exact same. That's about it. Nothing really special, but yeah, that's the detailing on the tender. And of course, you got your coal load. And because I'm modeling 765 as it would appear in the steam air, like most of my steam engines, you don't have the 2015 coal extension, because I am modeling it as it would appear in the steam air, or when it would run with the Mars light and the coal tender before the 2015. So my locomotive will be steam air or pre 2015. So there you go. That's my Berkshire. Yeah, so that's that. We're gonna get this thing on the layout and do some running with it by itself, and then we'll double hit it or triple head it with 5018 and 4449. We'll see. But yeah, let's go ahead and get this thing on the layout and take a look at the lights I've done. Alright, so we're here on the track with the nickel plate Road 765. As you might know, I think I forgot to say this before, but these were built by Lima Locomotive Works. So there you go. And of course, with being a Lima locomotive, here's the only other Lima locomotive I have, and that is of course the famous Southern Pacific 4449. And why I have these next to each other? Well, of course, these are all both customized, and these both have my standard for lighting: operational headlight, operational class lights, operational marker lights, and if possible, running lights. And of course, both of these have those. I don't know where the radio run. Not quite sure if this was right for 765, where the running lights would be, but I'm assuming this would be right, considering that when at night, if this was operating, they would need to grease the rods somehow, and being able to check the Nathan lubricator. I think that's what these things have. But point is, class lights work. Headlight. It's a dual beam headlight, by the way. But yeah, that's that for this engine. Let's talk drivetrain real quick. Now, of course, you should know the standard drive for most Bachmann engines. This does not have bearings, and what I mean by that, this does not have the turned brass metal roller bearings that most modern locomotives have, that come from Broadway, Athearn, and MTH, and also Rapido, I think, to an extent. But yeah, this does not have bearings, so no roller bearings. So that way, the axles just sit in the round slots in the frame, which it's not bad, but in this modern age, come on, you should have roller bearings on your engines. But anyway, no roller bearings. This does have a good motor in it, though. This has a pretty decently sized 5-pole motor. So it's got a 5-pole motor, 5-pole can motor. Let me rephrase that. So you got a 5-pole can motor. Gear train, pretty decent, plastic gears, of course, but they hold up very well. The locomotive has a decent tractive effort. This measured a 6-ounce drawbar pull the last time I tested, but we're going to do another one in a second. This locomotive has a pretty decently sized gap. Of course, with that tread plate, it makes it look a lot better. Not bad. I have a shorter drawbar, but we'll see if that. But I don't think I'm gonna put that on though, because this already looks pretty decent. Yeah, so it looks pretty good, runs pretty well. It's got the stock Bachmann decoder in it right now, of course, because I don't have a decoder to put in it right now. But I am planning to put a TCS Wow Sound decoder in this locomotive, because again, like I said before, they got nickel plate Road 765 sound file on there, so I'm going to use that. So yeah. We're going to run it with I think this is about 15 or 16 freight cars back there somewhere. We're going to run it by itself for a little bit, and then afterwards we're going to run it with the daylight and possibly 5018. But most likely it's going to be the daylight just because. So, yeah. I don't think there's anything else really quite yet. But, yeah, let's go ahead and get this thing hooked up to a train and run it by itself for a little bit, and then run it with the daylight.